there's a lot of different brisket cuts out there, and so it takes a little bit to. I mean, it's not that easy, and somebody has to, over time, you could learn to cook brisket very well.
When you cook briskets at Ken's, are you doing the whole brisket?
Yeah, when we cook briskets, we don't trim anything. We don't trim any of the fat. By it being that workhorse muscle, being that we want the fat there.
Because that makes flavor.
It gives it flavor, and also when you cook it a little slow, it allows, and it makes the meat more tender.
And that's the magic of the process.
That's part of the magic of the process. When you watch a lot of the barbecue shows and shows on cooking, some people trim. They do a lot of trimming and trim all the fat off the brisket. Some just use the flat. And I find that it's more difficult to make it tender when you don't leave the fat on the brisket.
As a native New Englander, I grew up, my first experience, I grew up with a duality of first experience of brisket. One was the traditional Irish corned beef brisket on St. Patrick's Day. In Boston, that is that might as well be a flag. They could run a brisket up on a flagpole on March 17th and say, this is a flag. Everybody knows it. It's not the most wonderful meal you'll have all year, to be honest. But then I worked in a Jewish deli, and I learned what real corned beef brisket could taste like. Tender, salty, but wonderful, flavorful, genius, in a very specific tradition. About as different from the Texas brisket tradition as you can get, I'm going to guess. But not. Because it's a function of time and seasoning and technique. Those are the things that introduced me to the idea of brisket. And then in the conversation with you, I'm learning about the decal and the flat. When we have those parts, right, like the decal or the flat,
right,
we can inadvertently find our way to have these in our possession and think we're actually doing a brisket when we're not. When we want to go understand this more, what do we actually prize? Which part do we prize when we prize brisket meat? Because it's not something you don't want to, I'm trying to say this diplomatically. The part that becomes the Irish corned beef and cabbage, you don't want that part necessarily. That's not the big juicy part.
Well, the thing about brisket is people have their own taste. And when I say taste, some people like the lean part of the brisket, and there's others that like the dickle, the fat cap of the brisket. And depending on your taste, we have people that come in and say, oh, give me the fatty portion or give me the lean portion. So it just depends on what your preference is. And they both can be moist and tender, either the flat or the fat cap or the dickle. They both can be prepared in a way that they're tender and juicy. So most of the corned beef that you see for St. Patrick's Day or whatever, they're using the flat.
Right.
And a lot of times in grocery stores, you'll see the flat there. And that is the reason that most people end up with tough briskets, because there is no fat there. And, the fat has all been trimmed. And so that's why we leave it all together and cook the whole thing.
And my chef friends always say, don't kill it twice.
Yes.
Right? And that's the easiest thing to do when you don't have a lot of wiggle room to work with. And most of us are kind of set up to think we can't do this or we don't know how to do this when we're not setting ourselves up to have a great experience. I have a couple other quick questions. How is the brisket different than the tri-tip? Because I always think sometimes when I look at a tri-tip that, because I'll see it and it's got a size that's sort of manageable, but it's not really the same because the grain is very different.
Well, the marbling is different on a tri-tip.
Yeah.
And a tri-tip, we cook tri-tip. Tri-tips, you cook tri-tips faster. If you go around town and you see some of the guys that cook tri-tip, they're on an open flame, on an open grill. Tri-tips are cooked most closer to the way you cook steak than they are the barbecue, because barbecue is low and slow, and grilling happens faster, and it's on a higher flame and a higher temperature. So when we cook tri-tips, we cook tri-tips at a high temperature and a little faster. And then typically you want your tri-tips and you want to cook them to right around medium rare. And our briskets, we cook our briskets, sometimes 16 hours, depending on the size, at a low temperature. And we pull them off at an internal temperature of about 175 degrees, right down the middle, right where the biggest part of the brisket. And then it's done, and it's not dry in any of the other areas. And so, but the tri-tip, like I said, you want that medium rare, so it's going to be somewhere in the 150s, maybe it's whatever, internal temperature. So.
All right, so we have to take our first break, but I have to tell you, I am absolutely salivating at the thought of the soft smoke brisket that you make. I know you brought some.
I did bring brisket today.
The studio smells amazing. And I want to remind everybody, people in their cars right now, where's Ken's Hardwood Barbecue?
Ken's Hardwood Barbecue is at 5250 East 22nd Street. The cross streets are 22nd and Craycroft.
One of the best presents you can give yourself when you go buy some brisket there is to make sure when they say, which sides do you want with that? And we're going to have an argument about this. I can tell already, but I'm going to tell you, get the green beans. Call me later. Thank me after you eat them and say, who knew these could be so delicious? Get the green beans as one of your sides. Now, I like the cowboy beans too. And you might say, 2 beans? Not a coleslaw. The other things are delicious, but I'm promising you, when you go try the brisket, you will call the show, 520-790-2040, and say, Jen, you were right. Oh my gosh, those beans were crazy good. So when you get the brisket and they say, what sides do you want? Beans and the other beans. That's what you want. Green beans? Yeah, you do. I know. I know. When people tell me things and I don't believe them, I have to go on faith. And you know what I know? If you go on faith, you will always win. You will always come out the winner. We're going to take a very quick break. It is 2:21 p.m., and we're having lunch at Ken's Hardwood Barbecue right here on AM 1030, The Voice, trusted local news and talk, where the local news is the local talk, and the local talk is the local news. We'll be back with more right after this with our own friend, Ken Alexander from Ken's Hardwood Barbecue. We'll take your calls and questions. We'll be back with more right after this. 2:25 p.m. and I am a very happy girl right now. Thank you, Ken from Ken's Hardwood Barbecue. Ken Alexander's in the studio with me, and when I get to sit down and spend time with a favorite person, and we talked at the beginning of the show about how you live a nice big full life and you can't imagine that there's room in your life for more. But the beauty of life is that your life can change in a day, a minute. Someone can walk into your life and all of a sudden, there's room in your life for more love, more friendship, more fellowship, more conviviality, more hospitality, more flavor, more fun. You are the only person limiting how much fun and flavor and fellowship and love and friendship you have in your life. Because you never know when someone is going to walk along and say hello and change everything. If you're open, and you trust, and you have faith, you get rewarded in ways you can hardly imagine. Now, if you're a carnivore or a part-time carnivore, I have a professor who is here to teach us how, in those marvelous exterior bits of an expertly prepared, seasoned, and through the application of technique and time, intention and caring, create and transform a simple protein into a work of art. In some ways, it's almost like pottery, because there's a temperature element, which is highly transformative. And you start out with this big mound of clay, but it's not really clay, it's meat. And it's meat in the form of a brisket. But it's the sculptor's hand who transforms this mound of clay into one of the most beautiful and delicious things you could possibly imagine. In the kiln of the barbecue, through the application of the art and technique and intention and craft, a protein becomes a true masterpiece. A brisket, something really fundamentally simple. A meat muscle of locomotion is transformed into something that when you taste it and you see it, I defy you, unless you're a vegan, then it's kind of easy. But and even then, I'm going to tempt you. I want you to look at this that we're having right now, and I'm going to hold it up to the camera. We're on YouTube Live right now on the 1030 The Voice YouTube channel, and we are live. And when I point at the crust, to say it's a crust is a misnomer because it's not crusty crunchy. It's an exterior, best known as a crust, but it's also not a bark. And if you are a barbecue aficionado and a neophyte, as I am, and you're learning the language with which to express and enjoy, share and commune around the enjoyment of barbecue, and you want to develop your connoisseurship, you want to develop your expertise, and you want to learn from the best, well, we've employed a technique of curiosity and sought out the most irresistible barbecue in town at Ken's Hardwood Barbecue. And by the way, Ken's Hardwood Barbecue is one of the barbecue choices in the Tucson Weekly Best of. The voting's still going on, and I would implore you to do two things. One, go and try it for yourself. Try the brisket, and when you do, get it with the two beans, the green beans. You'll thank me later. And then make sure you vote. Ken's Hardwood Barbecue on the Tucson Weekly. But I also want to say that when you're learning about all of this, there's actually quite a lot to learn, but you possess the most important criterion of enjoyment, which is when you put this in your mouth, does it taste remarkably delicious to you? And does it taste the way that great brisket is supposed to taste? And what will it do when you take that first bite? Will it elicit from you that moment of human reaction that all great art invokes from the recipient? I will argue that it will. My good friend Ken Alexander from Ken's Hardwood Barbecue is here teaching me a lot today. Thank you, Ken. Thanks for being here.
Jennifer, for allowing me on the show again.
Oh, no. My God, you're doing me a huge favor. So we were talking in the break because you took the brisket out, and there are two portion sizes here, and I'm going to move this. I've got a glass of bubbly water here, and we're going to move it aside. And when you were telling me about these are two different parts of the whole brisket, but they come from two distinct parts that we were talking about before. One was the flat. And what do we have in front of us, and why do they look a little bit different?
Well, they're from different parts of the biscuit. One comes from the fat cap or right around the dickle. The other part is more of the flat. And when we have people come to a restaurant and somebody will say, can you give me, I want to get the moist cut. And typically they're referring to the more marbling part of the brisket, which is usually when you look at a brisket, it's that little hump on the top of the brisket. And that typically has a lot of fat or marbling within the meat. And so some people enjoy that. Other people come in and say, I don't want that. I just want the lean parts. But the thing about it, the way we prepare our brisket, it's all moist. And the briskets that we buy don't have a lot of marbling in the top or that fat cap. So they're pretty similar, but the thing about it, it's all moist.
It's really all moist. When we talk about the exterior, it has the color of something that has been exposed to time and heat, temperature, and a spice.
Yeah, that's our rub.
I don't want to make you give away trade secrets, but tasting the little bit of exterior on this, some people call things that are the exterior of a barbecue meat bark. But this isn't crunchy or crusty like I imagined and have experienced bark to be. How do you get this so different? This is kind of like soft and real. It's like eating meat candy.
Yeah, well, the thing is, again, it's low and slow. We cook our meat at a very low temperature for a long period of time. And so, like I said, we take it off at a certain temperature. Many of the folks that have bark, or you've heard of, many of the folks that do have the bark, they cook their briskets longer and at a higher temperature. And so, so they cook faster, and they do have they're kind of crunchy on the outside.
And that's just a preference thing.
And it's a preference thing. It's just a preference of how you prepare a brisket. And a lot of folks in Texas, they do the briskets that way. And a lot of places have what you call burnt ends. Mm-hmm. And some people come in. We have every now and then somebody will come into the restaurant and ask for burnt ends, but we don't have burnt ends because we don't cook our briskets at that higher temperature. So in order for us to have burnt ends, we'd have to cut that portion of the brisket, which is typically the point of the brisket, and we'd have to cook it longer and make it crunchy and actually drier. And
that does not, I mean, I know it's a preference thing, but as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know that that's what I want. I think I want this. Like,
yeah, because typically burnt ends, they came from Kansas City, and after the day of cutting brisket, there would be this part of the brisket that was crunchy and dry, and they'd save them all up, and then they would add barbecue sauce on them, and then they would serve those at the end of the night, and those would be burnt ends. But our brisket, we don't do that.
Gotcha. All right. How is it that the exterior of the briskets that you cook have a remarkably, distinctively sweet and savory flavor? It really is, like, if anyone has ever made you, like candied bacon, I mean, it's very evocative of that gently smoky, gently slightly sweet, really beautifully spicy, complex, meaty, lots of umami. I mean, it's really delicious. How does that happen?
Yeah, so that has to do with the preparation, and it has to do with our dry rub that we make right there at Ken's Hardwood BBQ. So we have a homemade dry rub that we have kind of formulated over time, and we take those briskets, we marinate them overnight, and then we put that dry rub on them, and then we put them in the smoker for a long time under pecan wood, smoking with pecan wood, and they just.
And pecan wood is just that really soft, pretty wood. It's a regional wood, so it's also a taste of place here, and it's not that big
It's not a
big Hawaiian punch
flavor,
kind of like a sock in the mesquite mouth.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
We typically use pecan because it's so plentiful in the area, and we also use hickory on occasion when we can get it into the restaurant.
The grain on this is incredibly delicious because the texture is so good. When I eat this, some people eat it like this with just some barbecue sauce. Some people put it in a sandwich. In your experience, because I know you went around researching, because you're a guy who traveled a lot. You had a corporate career. You've had several lifetimes and several careers. What was it about brisket that spoke to you and said, I'm going to focus some time and attention on this?
Well, typically I've cooked thousands of briskets over time, and it's just that the meat is so different, and it's different from steak. It's different from, and the other thing is, I've always had events where I had to feed a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so it's a big piece of meat, and it takes about the same time as any other kind of piece of meat. I mean, as far as preparation. And the brisket is just so delicious. And I just, the people I know, the people in my family, we all just love that cut of meat.
I am so excited you're here. I'm so excited you're in the co-host seat. We do have a little bit of how do I say this? I'm a little embarrassed at the moment because I'm feeling very greedy because you brought this all for me. Let's remind everybody where Ken's Hardwood BBQ is, because if you were listening to us smacking my lips and experiencing that sweet and savory, succulent, carefully, intentionally prepared deliciousness, and you want to taste it for yourself, where can you go?
Ken's Hardwood BBQ at 5250 East 22nd Street, near Craycroft and 22nd Street.
Okay, you know who's up next? Every Wednesday, we have Jeff Gardner from Tucson Weekly join us to tell us about the next issue of the magazine. But as you well know, Tucson Weekly is also the organization that is currently searching for our best of the best of the best. So I'm a little apprehensive because I don't want this to, Jeff, we're not lobbying you in any way, shape, or form because we really do have you on every Wednesday. It just happens that we have Ken on today too. So if it is in any way an impropriety to have you both on the same show at the same time, I'm going to let you make that call. But Jeff Gardner from Tucson Weekly does join us every week, and he does join us as associate editor to tell us what the next issue is going to offer us. And maybe we will do well to not talk about the voting, or maybe we'll just talk about the next issue, but I'll leave it up to him. Jeff Gardner, welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Thanks for having me. And no, it's really not a problem at all. I don't think you would have to pay me to talk about how good Ken's Hardwood barbecue is. I've had the food, and it speaks for itself.
Exactly. Res ipsa loquitur.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah.
So how are you? What's on the agenda? What are we going to see on the newsstands tomorrow? What's on the cover?
So I'm really excited to talk about this week because, as you may have heard, it is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo landing this Saturday. And it's actually kind of serendipitous that we're speaking right now because 50 years ago, we're right in the middle of it. The Apollo took off on the 17th, and it landed on the moon in the 20th. So we're right in the middle right now, or on the 16th. So we're right in the middle, and our cover section, we have a few different lunar things going on. First off, we have an essay by one of our columnists just talking about the Apollo anniversary and what it meant for the United States and how that was all kind of been our driving force back then, but even today, remembering that. And as well, we have an examination of space as a Tucson industry.
Right.
You would be amazed how many businesses and obviously the university as well in Tucson are just not only obsessed with space, but also leading some of the cutting edge research on getting out there.
We have and continue to play a really profound role in, let's just call it the space industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting back in the early 60s, a gentleman you may know, Gerard Kuiper literally from the Kuiper Belt, was named after him in our solar system, helped found University of Arizona's Lunar Planetary Laboratory. And it was in that laboratory that they developed some of the first atlases of the moon. And it was those maps that NASA used to plan out where Apollo 11 should land. So literally, the University of Arizona developed the maps that NASA used on their Apollo missions.
Very, very cool. And are those maps somewhere on display for people to come and see at the university? Is that one of the things we get to do this weekend?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they are in the Lunar and Planetary Laboratory.
That is so cool. Hey, listen, Jeff, we're going to take a very quick break. And when we come back, more with the upcoming Tucson Weekly, what's going on this weekend, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the lunar landing with my good friend Ken Alexander from Ken's Hardwood Barbecue. Frankly, we do need to take this break for lots of business reasons, but it's really, I've got to have another bite of brisket. If you want to join me, Ken's Hardwood Barbecue is located on 22nd. And when you order it, please get the green beans. You'll thank me later. We'll take a quick break. And when we're back, AM 1030 The Voice, KVOI, we will tell you what else is delicious. And we're going to invite you to call in 520-790-2040 to share the conversation with us. And Donna, I'm sorry we lost you. We hung up on you by accident. Please give us a call back. We'd love to chat with you. And everybody, please join us at our table. This is Around the Table, live from the City of Gastronomy. We'll be back with more right after this. 2:45 p.m. and we're still having lunch here at Around the Table, live from the City of Gastronomy on AM 1030 The Voice, trusted local news and talk, KVOI, Kevin Victor, OscarIndigo.com on the World Wide Web. And we are on YouTube Live right now on 1030 The Voice, so you can actually observe and taste along with us this incredible and succulent and flavorful masterpiece. Ken Alexander from Ken's Hardwood Barbecue is here with us. Ken, how are you?
I am doing fantastic.
This is fun. I love having you here with me for so much time. I know you're a really busy guy, but that's the beauty of summertime in Tucson. You know, we're all a little less busy, so we can do the things we want to do with the people we want to hang out with a little bit longer and a little bit more.
Absolutely. Summertime is about fellowship. It's about getting together with the people that you enjoy and spending time with them.
Mm-hmm. And reminding each other about how fortunate we are to have one another for this journey. And this is delicious. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I love having you in the co-host seat. And I know that Jeff Gardner, who is on with us every Wednesday, is joining us as well for the upcoming issue dropping tomorrow on the newsstands. Tucson Weekly's associate editor, Jeff Gardner, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
And we're going to go to the phones, and our good friend Donna DiConcini is calling in to join the conversation with a comment. Donna, how are you? Are you there? Is she still there? I hope she's still there. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Ken, hi. How are you?
Hi, Donna. It's good to hear from you. How are you doing?
You know, I am just absolutely blessed, just really, really blessed. And you guys were talking about fellowship, and I think that, the relationship that I have with Jennifer and with you and others, you can't compare. You know, you can't ask for it. It is given to you, and so I'm totally just blessed to have you guys in my life. But Jennifer, you've been talking about brisket all day long, but you did talk about the smoked St. Louis ribs. They're smoked to perfection, and that's every time I go into Ken's. That's what I get, and I love the pink inside. You know, where the smoke kind of fits into the meat, and it's tender and it falls off. And that with I have to give you on the green beans, but I like the coleslaw. The cornbread is exquisite, and then sweet potato pie. We've tasted sweet potato pies around town, and Ken, you've got the best.
Thank you, Donna.
So, I need to salivate on the ribs and not on the brisket, but
that's funny.
I know how well you do that as well.
Well, Donna, thanks for calling. You know, Ken, what's so funny about this is Donna's one of those friends. She will tell you the truth.
Absolutely.
The unvarnished truth. And if she disagrees with you, she will tell you. And the gift that she gives you as a friend is that she will always tell you the truth, and she will always help teach you. And remember, everybody's our teacher, and she's really good at loving us enough to be our teachers as well.
I love you both, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye, Donna.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the St. Louis ribs are good. She's got a terrific palate. I mean, she's a connoisseur. I mean, who's going to argue with her? But today, I have to tell you, I'm swooning and swimming with the briskets. Jeff Gardner from Tucson Weekly is here because tomorrow, the next issue is dropping with the 50th anniversary of the Apollo landing on the cover. Is that what I understand, Jeff?
Yes, that is true. Not only that, but also an examination of how much space itself is an industry in Tucson.
Is this weekend coming up going to be an all about the moon, all about the space program kind of weekend, or is there lots of other things going on as well?
Well, that's definitely what it seems like from at first glance. There are so many moon events going on, specifically related to the university. They're having all sorts of campus walks on Saturday across the lunar and planetary labs. They're showing off some of the gizmos that were involved in their NASA work. But beyond that, there are actually some pretty interesting events this weekend of note. I think most importantly, or most interestingly, is the Loft Kids Fest is starting this Friday.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and good news for kids that they're showing all sorts of children's movies throughout from this Friday to next Sunday, and good news for parents that every screening is free.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so they're going to have not only cartoons but also some live-action films like the classic Willy Wonka, and all sorts of stuff. And it's one movie every day from this Friday to next Sunday at 10 a.m., and they're all free.
I love that. At 10 a.m. every day, and it's going to be an assortment of our favorite kid movies.
Yep.
I adore that. See, this is why we love the Loft Cinema. This is why, if you're not already a member, you should join as a member, because we want to support and sustain them in our community.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you've seen, but they're in the process right now of reconstructing their marquee to make it bigger and better than ever.
Wow. All right, so kids' movies. What about staying cool this weekend? What can we do to stay cool, Jeff? Because, it's pretty hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Loft is actually doing, if we're speaking indoors, sometimes I'll go to the movies just to cool off. The Loft is also on this Saturday getting involved in the moon landing as well. They're screening a documentary all about Apollo 11 called For All Mankind. And it's this Saturday at 2 p.m., and it features interviews with NASA employees as well as scientists and researchers of the moon. So I'm pretty interested in that as well.
Cool. Very, very cool. All right. Let's talk about music. Is this just one of those quiet times of year musicologically?
No, not at all. That's one of the best things about Tucson. There's never a quiet time for music. But if we're talking about loud music, we at 191 Tool this Saturday, there's a good all-female punk band called The Regrets playing this Saturday, and we actually have an interview with them in this newest copy of the Tucson Weekly, and they're a really interesting group of gals that I'm excited to see.
All right, and before I let you go, I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't invite you to remind everybody that there is, in fact, voting going on about the best things in town, because your readership knows where the good things are to eat, drink, and where to play, and where to have fun, and where to enjoy the best things in life, where the most irresistible Tucson experience takes place. How can we vote?
Yeah, absolutely. It's keeping us very busy this time of year, but we got Best of Tucson, the final round of voting going on right now. Just head over to TucsonWeekly.com and you'll see our big banner that says Best of Tucson 2019. Get on there and you can vote just for specific things if you want, or you can vote in every single category we have. So if you don't have too much time and just want to throw in a couple votes for the places you specifically like, you can. But if you feel like getting involved, you can vote for every single category in Tucson.
Well, I can't wait till you come and share all the winners with us on that particular issue, but we are grateful that each and every week you, Jeff Gardner, Associate Editor of Tucson Weekly, come and join us and tell us where we should be spending our time and attention for the week and weekend ahead, because you have really and truly done an extraordinary job of cultivating and curating a selection of what's really most delicious about this place we call home. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jeff Gardner is the Associate Editor of Tucson Weekly. He joins us each and every Wednesday. And we should also mention that Revel Wine Bar has a complimentary wine tasting every Wednesday evening from 5:30 to 7 p.m. I will be there, and I invite you to come out and hang out with us. It is delicious. It's complimentary. And Todd Getzelman, who is normally here with us on Wednesdays, not here with us today, invites you to join us as well. And I have to tell you, I might take a little piece of this tinfoil that Ken brought and sneak, or I don't know if it's contraband. I mean, I don't think anybody's saying you can't bring a little taste with you, but I want to know how this is going to taste paired up with some of the most delicious sips in town. Ken from Ken's Hardwood Barbecue, that's Ken Alexander, joins us. And for the last 5 or 6 minutes we have together, we didn't get to the sauces. In Texas, do people serve brisket with sauce or no sauce?
Actually, most barbecue joints serve their barbecue with sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And they're big sauce people, and especially in Texas. So they do serve the barbecue with sauce. Some serve it already sauced. But we like our meat we cook our meat where it doesn't need sauce.
Right.
But we do make some very flavorful sauces.
So let's take a taste of what you brought for us today, because these are two of your most popular.
Right. We brought our mild sauce. We make our mild sauce basically for our ribs and our brisket. And it's a very flavorful sauce. It's
piquant. It's savory. It's got a great chord of balanced flavor of tangy and rich and a little bit of sweet. It's really, really nice.
Right.
I can see how that would augment. I can see how it would augment in some people's palates. To me, I'm a purist. I like the brisket clean. You do such a nice job Like that's what that's supposed to taste like. But I'm going to try it with that. So let me try the mild and the brisket.
Okay, great.
And what do you recommend to people when they say, what do you recommend?
If we're talking about brisket or we're talking about ribs, we always recommend our mild barbecue sauce that we...
it's shocking how different the pairing is when you get the crust and the seasoning from the dry rub. Mm-hmm. That's a really great complex chord of flavor.
Yeah, I think they complement each other.
It really does.
Very, very
that's actually
well.
surprising to me how delicious that is. Because I like it plain, but I actually really like that more than I thought I was even going to. That's delicious. That's really delicious with that mild sweet sauce. Wow, that's good. All right, what else have we got?
So we also brought our Ken's Barbecue hot barbecue sauce. Now, that's my favorite, actually. And for the ribs and the brisket, it has heat, but it's not overpowering heat. No.
That's super rich.
Yes, it's flavorful, and it doesn't stay with you all day, or it doesn't, scorch your palate so you can't enjoy anything else.
But it's beautifully balanced. Mm-hmm. Brisket in other parts of the world, brisket in Tucson. Do people come and make tacos out of it because we're more taco people than sandwich people? Like in Texas, I'm going to imagine they're like sandwich people or plate people. Yeah,
so you can do quite a few things with brisket. Some people make tacos with it. As a matter of fact, we use brisket for our sloppy joe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we use brisket and we use rib, and we use that to make our sloppy joe. We also use, we can use it to make tacos. Sometimes we have specials, and we'll make cheesesteaks with the brisket. So we do.
Oh, that would be so good. That smoky would be so nice.
Yeah, so sometimes we'll have that special where we offer cheesesteaks, but we're making it with brisket. So there's a lot of things you can do with a smoked brisket.
Wow, I love that. That's really delicious. I'm grateful to you that came and gave us a brisket primer today.
Well,
Brisket 101 with Ken Alexander from Ken's Hardwood Barbecue. It was a well-spent hour indeed. Thank you for coming and sharing all your knowledge and expertise. But more importantly, I want to thank you because this is hard work.
And it's only hard work if you don't love it.
And it is a labor of love, and we're grateful to you that you make our place more delicious here. What are the hours of operation, and are you still doing catering, and do you still have your truck?
So we do catering. We still have our truck. Our truck was on the base today, on the Davis Mountain Air Force Base today. We do a lot of catering, corporate catering. We offer the truck for corporate catering, and we offer for special events. Yes.
And where can I find out where the truck is going to be on any given day?
Just check us out. Check out our website at kenshardwoodbbq.com. That's our website, and you can find us just west of Craycroft at 5250 East 22nd Street.
5250.
Come on down. Get your barbecue on.
Thank you for coming and spending this time with me. I'm so grateful to you for being here. I'm really happy.
Thank you very much. I loved our time together today. Thank you.
When you go, don't forget, try the beans. And when you get home tonight, do me one favor. Hug your kids and count your blessings. We'll see you tomorrow. Live from the Tucson Foodie headquarters for the Tucson Foodie Edition, number 10.